How's it going, everybody? Bo here from BZHub. You know, recently I've been seeing a lot of people searching for tips on hunting geese in the game, and in fact, one of the questions I hear a lot is, which map are the geese on? So that tells me that people need help on this subject, which is what this video is all about. Let's get into it. The first thing you should understand about geese, just from the very basic point of view, I suppose, is that the geese move in a specific way. They aren't like the rest of the animals in the game where they have need zones set up. They have drinking need zones, feeding need zones, sleeping need zones. No, the geese travel in paths, which is something that the Hunter Classic used to do. But basically, picture the map of Hirschfelden, and then you have flocks of geese which travel through the map at different directions, different times, different intervals, I suppose. And basically, anytime they cross close to where you are on a field, you're able to call them into you, which kind of snaps them out of that path and brings them into you. In the Hunter Classic, you could actually see the geese disappear for half a second and then reappear because they were switching between flying in a path and coming down into their landing, animation, basically. The reason it's important to know this, other than it being kind of a basic game design principle when it comes to geese, is that sometimes you'll hear a lot of people saying, I've been sitting for 15 minutes or I've been sitting for 12 minutes and I just haven't seen a lot of geese, and then I found geese, and then there were like, 4 flocks of them at the same time. And then, then it was 10 more minutes before I saw more geese. And then there'll be other days where you get a flock of geese and then it's 2 more minutes and it's another flock of geese, and they're spread out nice. And it's because these paths are crossing over where you are in a different way. Sometimes all the paths somehow cross where you are. And I don't know if the paths are designed to cross over you as the player, kind of to go in your proximity or not. It is kind of interesting that there would be so many paths that cross each other at the same time. But hey, I mean, that just means you have a better opportunity to get more geese. So I mean, you can't hurt that, especially if you get a bunch of buddies together and then you can get like 30 geese at the same time. That'd be crazy. It'd be crazy getting that many geese. This is honestly one of the things that people get very frustrated when it comes to the duck and cover DLC, is because the ducks don't really fly in paths so much like the geese do. They have need zones, they have drinking and feeding need zones, whatever it may be, and then the ducks kind of fly in and fly into those need zones, and once you kill all those ducks, then the need zones need to reappear for a new flock of ducks to fly in. So it's kind of hard to set up like a duck blind and then wait there, because it's not the same as geese. It really is. So I enjoy hunting geese a lot more than ducks for this reason, but feel free to try out the duck blind and just sit there and wait for ducks. I mean, you will get some eventually. They will fly over you and you can call them in, somewhat similarly, but to me, I prefer geese. So I bring up the paths because I think it's very important when you're considering where to set up your laydown blind for your goose setup, as well as your decoys. What you should be really thinking, not even looking at the map really, you should be focusing on a field where you have 360 degrees of view, and that's actually kind of a difficult thing to find throughout Hirschfelden. When I first discovered how much fun goose hunting was, my idea was that I could set up multiple blinds throughout the map, and so I could shoot some geese at one location, quickly move to another location, shoot some more geese, and just keep hopping around, hoping that the paths would all line up so that I would have constant geese. And after a while, that just became too much work. I much more enjoyed just sitting down in a blind, shooting the geese that came out, and then just twiddling on my phone for 5 minutes until the next flock came. That was more fun to me. So because you're watching the guide right now, I figured I would show you my favorite 3 locations that I used to use, and then of course the last one will be the one that I just constantly use now and don't even fiddle with the other 2. For number 3 on the list, we have this location in a cornfield, coordinates -5,814 by 9,344. This has a pretty good little spot here, has fields on both sides. You kind of set up your blind in the middle between the trees so that the only places you cannot see the geese are where the trees are, so that you can see geese approaching from the front side or the back side, as well as seeing a lot of roe deer, a lot of wild boar, a lot of red fox, and the occasional red deer. For location number 2, this kind of came up. I actually set up a tent here for fallow deer, and then realizing that it was not such a bad place to put down a goose blind, I decided to do that. So this was my second setup location, coordinates -5,178 by 8,678. What's great about this spot is that, as you can see around us right now, there is a ton of space for fallow deer to come out in the mornings and feed. If you're looking for fallow deer, this is a great one for you while you're goose hunting. And lastly, as our number 1 position, the one that I continue to use whenever I decide I want to go goose hunting, this coordinates -7,678 by 11,456. This is my favorite spot. I put up a video a long time ago saying that this is the best goose hunting spot, and I still stick by it. It has fantastic views of the entire field. You get to see everything around you. There are trees behind you, but even those are pretty spacey. You can still see through them, and the geese usually don't get in the way of those trees, so you can see everything around you. And for the rest of the video, this is where we'll be setting up our stuff. So if you are playing the base, the hunter call, the wild game, you will have the goose call already in the store for you to purchase. This will allow you to call down geese, but it won't really be very good chances. To have the best chance, what you should really do is go ahead and purchase the Wild Goose Chase Gear DLC for $3.99. This will give you the laydown blind. It'll give you a number of different double-barreled 20-gauge shotguns, as well as goose decoys. When you purchase this in the store, you will get 1 laydown blind, and I want to say 4 of each decoy, as well as all of the shotguns for you to use. After that, everything else will need to be bought in in-game currency. I will say that additionally, I do use one of the tents to make traveling to my decoy setup a lot easier. I can just click on the tent and fast travel over to it, and boom, I'm there, I'm ready to go goose hunting. So if you don't have the Tents and Ground Blinds DLC, that is also going to be $3.99, unfortunately. But if you do own the 2019 edition of the Hunter Call the Wild, these DLCs are both included in that version of it, so you should be good to go. Alright, so we've decided upon our location. We've set up a tent so that it's easier to get over here whenever we need to get over here, and now we have our laydown blind as well as our decoys in our inventory. First thing you're going to want to do is go out into the field so that you find a position where you see a lot of the area, and then you're going to want to lay down your laydown blind on the ground so that you can set up your decoys. Once you have your laydown blind set up, you have to realize that with the decoys, the geese like to fly in the proximity of the decoys, not in real life when you can kind of create like a V pattern and then they'll kind of want to land right in the middle of it. The geese just kind of land around the decoys, but I will say that when the geese are coming in on their approach, you can give them calls and they will get closer to the caller. So as they're landing, they will turn towards you and come directly to you, sometimes landing on top of you. So if that's your thing, then go ahead and do that. You can experiment with different locations of the laydown blind as well as different patterns of the decoys, but you will find that the majority of the time the geese just kind of land wherever they want to, and by calling them you will get them in closer. And I'm not sure about real life, the geese in the game are just as happy landing in an open spot of the field as they are in the middle of your decoys. So if we think about it in terms of 100%, if you look at your caller, you may have a 20% chance to get the flock to come in, or 20% of the flock to come in. And then by adding in 20 decoys, if you look at duck decoys, the 20 amount is the maximum effect of attractiveness that you can get from the decoy. So by putting out 20 decoys, that may equal the other 80%, equaling 100% attractiveness. This is just to get the flocks to come down to you, and then by using the caller, you can call them in closer to you versus not close. They will just kind of land wherever they want unless you start calling them as they come down. Alright, finally, let's start talking weaponry. When we're looking at geese, they're rather large, but even still, they're only class 1 animals, which means you can only use 22 bullets, birdshot, and 300 grain arrows. At this point in time, that means you're going to be able to use weapons such as the Cacciatore, the Caversham, 20 gauge semi, 20 gauge double, 10 gauge Miller, the Grilk, 410 revolver, 22 pistol and rifle, as well as the 300 grain arrows. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about how to shoot the geese, but basically, if you want my advice, go for the longer ones first. That way the ones closer to you become the longer ones as you're reloading your weapons. If they land on the ground, consider whistling to have them pop back up. You can go into your controls to find out which key or button that is. When you're in your lay down blind, there are some actions such as calling and looking in your binoculars that will not have your character pop up scaring the geese. Anytime you aim with your shotgun though, or any other weapon, you will become visible to the geese and scare them away. And at this point, that's gonna wrap it all up. We've talked about their flight paths, we've talked about location, we've talked about setup and attractiveness, as well as the weapons you can use on the geese. And at this point, you are as much an expert as I am, whatever that may be. I hope this helps you out, and I hope you get a lot of geese in your near future. Or if you've already been shooting geese, I hope maybe you found something useful out of this entire video. If you ever want to watch our Twitch streams, we're on Monday, Wednesday, sometimes Friday, 7:30 to 9:30 p.m. Central US, and I hope to see you there. Like and subscribe. As always, it really helps us out. It really puts us at the top of the search whenever people are looking for a good goose guide, and that's gonna do it. As always, hunters, keep hunting, never stop.